Hello and welcome to Cluesy Clinic today, and we're chatting today about motherhood and health. So we all know that mums tend to put themselves last, so their health is often the one that is forgotten or that is just shrugged off because you don't have time to deal with it because you've got screaming kids to get ready, you've got a husband or a wife to look after. Luckily for Susie and myself, this isn't the case. Like, we understand that if our cup isn't full, that if we are not operating at our closest to 100%, and in Susie's case, it's always close to 120%, if we're not operating at that level, then we can't give CJ what the life that he deserves. We can't be present with him. We can't be active with him. And for all of you that know CJ, he's one of the most active toddlers that you have ever met. So Susie and I really do put a lot of time and effort and money invested into ourselves because we are our most important asset. So as mothers, we like to be able to set the example that we are putting our health first, which then in turn gives CJ his best life. Now, that also leads us into something you may not know about mother's health, is a thing called generational toxicity or generational traumas, for example. So what you may not know is that we inherit toxicity through our DNA. It's one way where our body inherits toxicity. Now, I have a lot of European, like first generations Australians from European families, especially those that lived close to Germany, Italy, Poland, and places like this during the World War II. They have a lot of grandparents and parents who were severely affected by that toxicity from bombs, from malnutrition, from all these things that have passed down the familial lines to now I have clients in the clinic wondering why they're sick when they lead the best lives. It's because we inherit some of that toxicity. So if you're in that boat and you have parents that have been, farmers that are agricultural, chemically based, that live near Air Force bases, Army bases, airports, train stations, things like that, that come from war-torn countries. Australia has a lot of immigrants, and so if you're from that kind of generational experience, if that's your experience, and come into the clinic and have your lymphatics tested out by me. Let's look at, are there signs of invisible inflammation that you didn't even know that you had because you've just inherited this stuff. So that's one thing that we as parents were also really mindful knowing that information for when we conceived CJ and make sure Susie was in her best state. So if you think that you've inherited some generational toxicity then from your mum or your dad for that case, or your grandmother or your grandmother's grandmother, because it goes back about 17 generations, unfortunately. So if you think that you have inherited some of that generational toxicity, then please give us a shout out. Just have a chat. If you have any of these unexplained symptoms of fatigue for no reason, or bloating, constipation, aches and pains, black bags under your eyes when you don't have a 2-year-old that wakes you up every 10 minutes, it seems. Just check in with us and just see, is there something that, in your mother's health that is presented in your health? And please, I implore you, don't put yourselves last. Like, as mothers, we are seriously the most important people in our children's lives. So we need to make sure, we're setting a good example about what good health is, and to put yourself first. Not selfishly, but if you make sure that you are operating at your peak, then those around you will operate at your peak. Those that know Cluesy Clinic know we specialize in frequencies. So our frequencies have a field effect and affect those around us. So if we are healthy and our bodies are operating at their optimal frequencies, then that in turn helps those around us operate at their optimal frequencies. So I often have clients in the clinic that come in that are little kids that don't want to wear the discs. Like CJ, he wears one particular disc, he'll leave it on, but all the others he rips off. So what we do is either put it on his clothes or we disc Susie. And then Susie, during the breastfeeding process, her frequencies and the frequencies of the devices go to CJ because she is energetically connected to that child because she is his mother. biologically, but also the discs and our frequencies have a field effect. So I often have clients say, oh, wow, you disked my lymphatics and I laid on the couch and my kid snuggled in with me and the next thing you know, he's sound asleep, he's calmed down. Like, yes, because that's what happens. Our frequencies affect those around us. We all know that person. I'm guilty of being that person, walking into a room cranky, the whole room's cranky. But I know if I walk into a room upbeat, positive and happy, then that is what the room is. Now, that's been medically proven by the Heart Institute in the United States that, our hearts have a frequency. So if we walk in full of love, that affects the whole room. If we walk in full of hate, then that affects the whole room. Like, it's scientifically, medically proven. So, there's lots of ways as mothers that we can influence our children's health, but also we just really need to focus on our health. So put yourself first. Make sure you can get some sleep. And I know I just had the privilege of having 8 days sleep uninterrupted because my family, Susie and CJ, were in Perth visiting Susie's family. So I got sleep. It was amazing. So Susie and I are now going to restructure our lives that we either send CJ and the other parent away on a holiday for a weekend, while the other parent gets to sleep, have the time to themselves. It's super important. Like, I don't necessarily want to go away for a girls' weekend or, a party weekend or anything like I would have wanted to do 20 years ago. I just want a weekend where I can just be by myself and rest and regenerate myself. So that's now a part of Susie and my program, because we know the importance of putting ourselves first to, as I said, give CJ his best life. So happy Mother's Day week to all the beautiful mums out there. I hope you've learned something that you didn't know, because that's the purpose of these lives. Look after yourself. Book in for a health check if you feel like you have any of these generational things. And you can also inherit habits. For example, I just spent a week with Susie and CJ with her family in Perth. We were having desserts after dinner. Like, I'm already full. I've had my lovely dinner and now I've got to fill in a dessert. Like, we offered alcohol all the time. We were offered cheeses and all that kind of stuff all the time. It's like, that's not the way we live. And slowly we are influencing Susie's family to live a more healthier life dietary-wise because of what we do. So you can influence down to your kids, but you can also influence up to give your parents, your mums, your grandmothers the best possible outcome for their health. So thanks again for watching. Happy Mother's Day. Every day's Mother's Day in this house. So celebrate every day how amazing you are, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.